Imagine yourself living in the world of Night City. Neon lights flicker and dance against the perpetual darkness that blankets the cityscape. The streets are a labyrinth of towering skyscrapers, bustling markets, and shadowy alleyways. In this world of cybernetic enhancements, corporate corruption, and lawless streets, survival often means navigating the fine line between right and wrong. Our story begins in the heart of Night City, where the pulse of life beats strongest. In a dimly lit alley tucked away from the neon glare, a figure moves with purpose through the shadows. Decked out in sleek cyberwear and clad in worn leather, they exude an aura of mystery and danger. This figure goes by the name of Nova, a skilled mercenary with a reputation for getting the job done, no matter the cost. Tonight, Nova finds themselves on the hunt for a valuable piece of tech, rumored to be in the possession of a notorious gang known as the Red Hounds. As Nova navigates the labyrinthine streets, they can't shake the feeling of being watched. Paranoia is a common companion in Night City, where danger lurks around every corner. But Nova trusts their instincts, honed through years of surviving in this unforgiving urban jungle. Finally reaching the Red Hounds' hideout, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, Nova prepares to infiltrate. They move with the stealth of a shadow, their cybernetic enhancements granting them enhanced agility and reflexes. As they slip past the perimeter defenses and into the heart of the gang's stronghold, Nova knows that one wrong move could mean certain death. Inside the warehouse, Nova finds themselves faced with a maze of corridors and rooms, each one more treacherous than the last. The air is thick with tension as they inch closer to their objective, their senses heightened to the slightest sound or movement. Suddenly, Nova hears voices echoing down the corridor ahead. They press themselves against the wall, blending into the darkness as they listen in on the conversation. The Red Hounds are discussing their latest score, a shipment of experimental cyberware that could fetch a hefty price on the black market. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Nova knows that this is their chance to strike. They spring into action, taking down the guards with deadly precision as they make their way towards the prize they seek. But just as Nova reaches the heart of the warehouse, they are confronted by the leader of the Red Hounds, a towering figure clad in cybernetic armor, their eyes glinting with malice. Nova knows that this will be their toughest challenge yet, but they steel themselves for the fight ahead. For in Night City, survival belongs to the bold. Nova stood face to face with the imposing leader of the Red Hounds, their cybernetic enhancements gleaming in the dim light of the warehouse. The tension in the air was palpable as the two adversaries sized each other up, each ready to unleash their full arsenal of skills and technology. Without a word, the leader of the Red Hounds lunged forward, their cybernetic fists crackling with electricity. Nova narrowly dodged the blow, countering with a flurry of punches and kicks fueled by years of combat training. The clang of metal on metal echoed through the warehouse as the two fighters clashed, each refusing to back down. As the battle raged on, Nova's mind raced, searching for a weakness in their opponent's defenses. They knew that brute strength alone wouldn't be enough to overcome the leader of the Red Hounds. They would need to outsmart them as well. Drawing on their quick thinking and tactical prowess, Nova began to anticipate their opponent's moves, dodging and weaving with expert precision. But the leader of the Red Hounds was no ordinary foe. With each blow, they seemed to grow stronger, their cybernetic enhancements giving them an almost supernatural advantage. Nova knew that they would need to dig deep if they hoped to emerge victorious. Summoning every ounce of strength and determination, Nova launched into a daring counterattack, catching their opponent off guard. With a swift motion, they disarmed the leader of the Red Hounds, sending their weapon clattering to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Nova pressed their advantage, raining down blows upon their opponent with relentless fury. But just as victory seemed within reach, disaster struck. A stray shot from the skirmish had hit a nearby fuel tank, triggering a chain reaction that sent the warehouse erupting into flames. Caught off guard by the sudden inferno, Nova found themselves engulfed in smoke and debris, their senses reeling. Struggling to maintain their footing amidst the chaos, Nova's mind raced as they searched for a way out. With the flames closing in around them, they knew that they needed to act fast if they hoped to escape with their life. Summoning their cybernetic enhancements, Nova pushed their body to its limits, leaping through the flames with a burst of speed and agility. With every fiber of their being, they fought their way through the inferno, determined to survive against all odds. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Nova burst through the crumbling walls of the warehouse, collapsing onto the cold pavement outside. Gasping for breath, they looked back at the burning wreckage, knowing that they had narrowly escaped death once again. But as they lay there, battered and bruised, Nova couldn't shake the feeling that their ordeal was far from over. In the world of Night City, danger lurked around every corner, and only the strongest and most cunning could hope to survive. And as Nova rose to their feet, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew that they would stop at nothing to carve out their own destiny in this unforgiving urban jungle. As Nova emerged from the wreckage of the burning warehouse, the acrid scent of smoke still hung heavy in the air. Their body ached from the ordeal, but their resolve remained unshaken. In Night City, survival meant embracing the chaos and thriving in the face of adversity. With the Red Hounds defeated and the prized piece of tech secured, Nova knew they couldn't afford to rest on their laurels. The streets of Night City were unforgiving, and danger lurked around every corner. They needed to find a safe haven, a place where they could regroup and plan their next move. Making their way through the labyrinthine streets, Nova's mind raced with possibilities. They knew they couldn't trust anyone in this city of shadows and secrets, but there were a few contacts they could rely on in a pinch. One such contact was Dex, a fixer with connections to the city's underground network. Navigating the bustling crowds and neon-lit alleyways, Nova eventually found themselves outside Dex's rundown apartment building. With a sense of apprehension, they climbed the creaky stairs to the third floor, where Dex's office was rumored to be located. As Nova entered the dimly lit room, they were greeted by the sight of Dex hunched over a cluttered desk, his cybernetic eyes glinting in the low light. Dex was a man of few words, but his reputation as one of Night City's most influential fixers spoke volumes. "Nova," Dex said, his voice low and gravelly, "I heard about your run-in with the Red Hounds. You're lucky to be alive." Nova nodded, their gaze steady. "Luck had nothing to do with it. I came prepared," Dex chuckled, a sound that was more like a rasp than anything else. "Prepared or not, you've made a powerful enemy. The Red Hounds won't forget what you've done." Nova shrugged off the warning. "Let them come. I'm not afraid of a few street thugs." Dex fixed Nova with a steely gaze. "You should be. The Red Hounds may be small time, but they're backed by some powerful players in this city. You need to watch your back." Nova's jaw tightened, but they knew Dex was right. In Night City, enemies lurked around every corner, and even the smallest mistake could be fatal. They needed to stay one step ahead if they hoped to survive. "I didn't come here for a lecture," Nova said, their tone sharp. "I need information. There's something big happening in Night City, and I intend to find out what." Dex studied Nova for a long moment before nodding slowly. "I might know a thing or two, but information comes at a price, you know." Nova reached into their pocket and withdrew a handful of eddies, Night City's currency of choice. "Name your price." Dex's lips curled into a crooked smile. "You always were a quick learner, Nova. Let's talk business." As Nova emerged from the fiery wreckage of the warehouse, their senses still reeling from the intensity of the battle and the inferno that had nearly consumed them, They knew they had to regroup and make sense of what had just transpired. Collapsing against a nearby wall, they took a moment to catch their breath and assess their injuries. The adrenaline that had fueled them through the ordeal began to wane, leaving behind a dull ache that radiated through their body. Nova grimaced as they gingerly probed their wounds, assessing the extent of the damage. Despite the pain, they knew they couldn't afford to linger. Nightfall in Night City was a dangerous time, and they were vulnerable out in the open. With a grim determination, Nova pushed themselves to their feet and began to make their way through the labyrinthine streets, their mind racing as they tried to piece together the events that had led them to this moment. The encounter with the Red Hounds had been more intense than anything they had faced before, and it left them with more questions than answers. As they navigated the bustling streets of Night City, Nova's thoughts turned to the mysterious piece of tech they had been seeking, the very reason they had risked their life in the first place. Despite the chaos of the warehouse fire, Nova couldn't shake the feeling that the device was still out there, waiting to be found. But finding it wouldn't be easy. In a city where everyone had their own agenda, and alliances were fleeting at best, Nova knew they would have to tread carefully if they hoped to uncover the truth. With the Red Hounds hot on their trail, and the looming threat of corporate espionage hanging over their head, they would need to rely on their wits and resourcefulness to stay one step ahead of their enemies. As they made their way through the neon-lit streets, Nova's thoughts turned to their allies, or lack thereof. In a city as unforgiving as Night City, trust was a rare commodity, and alliances were often forged out of necessity rather than genuine camaraderie. But Nova knew they couldn't face the challenges ahead alone. They would need to find someone they could trust, someone who would watch their back when the chips were down. With that thought in mind, Nova set out to find an old acquaintance, a fixer named Dex, who had helped them out of more than one tight spot in the past. Dex was a shrewd operator with connections all over the city, and if anyone could help Nova unravel the mystery of the missing tech, it was him. But as Nova made their way through the crowded streets, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Paranoia gnawed at the edges of their consciousness, whispering warnings of unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. In Night City, trust was a luxury few could afford, and Nova knew they would have to stay on their guard if they hoped to survive the night. Finally, after what felt like hours of navigating the maze-like streets, Nova arrived at Dex's hideout, a nondescript apartment nestled in the heart of the city. With a sense of relief, they rapped sharply on the door, their heart pounding in their chest as they waited for a response. To their surprise, the door swung open, revealing Dex himself standing on the other side. His face broke into a grin as he ushered Nova inside, his eyes twinkling with mischief as he welcomed them into his domain. "Nova, my friend," Dex exclaimed, clapping them on the back. "What brings you to my humble abode?" Nova stepped into Dex's apartment, feeling a wave of relief wash over them at the sight of their old friend. Despite the chaos of the night and the danger that still lurked outside, there was something comforting about being in Dex's presence. He was a survivor, someone who knew how to navigate the treacherous waters of Night City with ease. "Dex," Nova began, their voice strained with exhaustion, "I need your help. It's about the job I was on, the one with the Red Hounds." Dex's expression grew serious as he listened to Nova's tale, his brow furrowing in concern. He had heard rumors about the Red Hounds and their shady dealings, but he hadn't realized just how deep Nova had gotten mixed up with them. "So, let me get this straight," Dex said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "You're telling me you went up against the Red Hounds and lived to tell the tale?" "Color me impressed." Nova shrugged, trying to downplay the severity of the situation. "It was touch and go there for a while, but I managed to get out in one piece, thanks to a little luck and a lot of skill." Dex nodded, his expression unreadable. "Well, you're here now, so I'd say that's all that matters. But what about the tech you were after? Did you manage to get your hands on it?" Nova's face fell as they recounted the events that had led to the warehouse fire. I never found it. The whole place went up in flames before I could get my hands on anything. Dex frowned, his mind racing as he considered their options. Well, that complicates things. But hey, at least you're still breathing. That's more than I can say for most folks who cross paths with the Red Hounds. As Nova listened to Dex's words, a sense of determination began to stir within them. They might not have succeeded in retrieving the tech, but they weren't about to let that stop them. If anything, the events of the night had only strengthened their resolve to uncover the truth. Dex grinned, a glint of admiration in his eyes. That's the spirit, my friend. I knew I could count on you. With a renewed sense of purpose, Nova bid Dex farewell and set out into the night once more. The city streets stretched out before them like a labyrinth of possibilities, each alleyway holding the promise of adventure and danger. But Nova was undeterred. They had faced down the Red Hounds and lived to tell the tale. And if there was one thing they knew for certain, it was that nothing could stand in their way when they set their mind to something. As they disappeared into the neon-lit darkness of Night City, Nova couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation building within them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they were ready to face them head-on. For in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, survival belonged to the bold, and Nova was determined to carve out their own destiny in this unforgiving urban jungle. One daring adventure at a time.